Okay, for today's tutorial, we're going to start making a full-fledged game, and it's going to be a roll-a-ball type of game. So it'll look something like this, where the player is going to be a marble or a sphere of some sort, and it's rolling around the game and trying to collect some certain object. Doesn't have to necessarily look like this. You guys get to customize this game how you want. But this is basically how the game's going to be laid out. So to do that, we're just going to start from scratch. So you'll want to go to File up in the top left hand corner, and let's do a new project. So we'll click here. It'll close down what we have, and it should open up the project wizard. There it is. Again, you can browse to where you want this folder to be located. I'm just going to keep it where it is, and I'm going to change it to Rollerball. Okay, we don't need any of the standard packages that comes with it, so we don't need to select anything there. We'll just create. It should create a clean new project. And there it is. To create this game, we're going to need a surface for the ball to roll around on. So there's two ways to do that. You can either go to Create, and we can do a cube, or you can do a plane, one of the two. Cube's pretty self-explanatory. For the plane, it's just two-dimensional. You can see it from one side, and the other side you cannot. So you can either create it here, or go up and click Game Object, Create Other, and then you have the same options here. So if I created a plane, notice that we can see it from one side, but when we flip to the other side, it's not there. Okay, so that's the difference between a cube and a plane. Doesn't matter which one you pick, they'll do the same thing. I'll just leave it at a plane since that's what I picked. If it's not the size that you want, you can definitely resize it. The icon up here is your scale icon, and you can pick one of these individually and move it, or just click the box in the middle and resize it. So I'll just make it a little bit bigger. If you want to keep your units exact, notice how we have decimals over here on the transform component, the scale property. If you want them exactly whole numbers, just change them manually. So I'm going to go through and make it twice the original size. I'll change them all to 2. The Y scale doesn't really matter too much with a plane because, as you can see, the Y is the green direction and it's perfectly flat. So we could change this to 200 and it wouldn't do anything because a plane is a flat two-dimensional object. So it really doesn't matter what the scale is, but I'll keep it 2 so it's in line with the others. And you can rename it. You can either double click slowly, or you can right click and rename, one of the two. And I'll just rename it to floor. Okay, we got something for the ball to roll around with, but however, we don't have any walls to keep the ball within the plane of the game. If you don't want walls, you can skip ahead, but if you do want walls, we can create more objects. So I'm going to create a cube, but we don't want it to be perfectly square, so we can change the shape of it. So we'll pick our I'll change it so it's the same layout, the same size as our floor. That looks pretty good. And now I'll go ahead and move it over here. When you're creating your walls, if you want to do it more quickly, instead of creating a cube every time, you can just click on your wall, right click, and duplicate. Now it doesn't look like it duplicated, but they're laying right on top of one another. So you can select one of your 2 walls and you can just slide it over, and notice that we do have duplicates. I'm going to do the same for my other 2 walls, but when I duplicate it, it's not facing the right way. So you could grab your rotation component and slide it around, but it's hard to get it exact. So I'm going to come over here in the Y direction and just put 90 degrees. And the other 2 walls were 0, so if we want them to be perpendicular, we create 90-degree angles. While I was configuring my space here, 2 of my walls aren't centered properly, so I can actually move them both at the same time. If I hold down Shift, I can click more objects at the same time. Either Shift selects all of them, or you can click on each one and hold down Control, and then it selects each individual one. So I've selected these 2 walls that I need to move to the left, and now when I move it, they both move. And I can do this without parenting them in the hierarchy. Makes it go a little bit faster. Okay, so there's my level right here. We need to add in the player. Okay, well, we said he's going to be a marble, so we'll add in a sphere. I'll zoom in on it, and notice it's kind of in the ground, so we don't want that to happen when we start the game, so let's just rise it above where we want it to start. I want it to start right in the middle of the arena, so to speak, but you can place it anywhere you want. And let's go ahead and rename it player instead of sphere, because that's what the player controls. Alright, we did do a lot of edits now, and just so we don't lose progress, we do want to save our scene. However, we haven't created a scenes folder yet. We'll do that again. Right click on Assets, Create Folder, type in Scenes, and now in my Scenes folder we'll go ahead and save the scenes. When I click Save, since I haven't saved this yet, it brings up this menu, and I want to select my Scenes folder, and we'll call it Rollerball. Okay, so my scene has saved, it's in my Scenes folder. If we want to playtest this, the button controls for playtesting are up at the top. We have play, pause, and skip ahead, or skip a frame. So if we hit the play button, notice that all of the menus around change colors, and this color can be changed in the preferences. As you can see, mine is orange. That's basically just for show, so you can tell if you're playtesting or not. So if we stop the playtest, all the menus will change back. Right. One thing I wanted to mention that because when you play and test your game, any edits that you make in here, for example, if I wanted to move a wall or change position or a property inside of here while I'm playtesting, if I stop playtesting, it all gets reset. So nothing gets saved while you're playtesting. If you want to change that color to your preference, we have preferences. We can go into Edit and Preferences. And there's a lot of different things in here that we can change. For now, I'm not going to go through all of them, but for that play mode tint, it's right here. So mine's an orange color. You can either use the eyedropper to pick a color or just click on the box and you have your color selector. And so feel free to do that. Just exit out when you're done, and if you play test, you should have that color in the background. So the next thing we're going to do is start to create some movement for the player. Alright, so this is where we're going to start adding code into our projects. So before we do that though, again, we want to keep everything nice and organized. So under Assets, we have our Scenes folder. I'm going to right click on Assets, and we're going to create a new folder, and we're going to call it Scripts. This is where we're going to put all of our scripts, or basically all the code that we're going to put on our objects.